This is not a video about Mitch Marner. But we do have to mention Mitch Marner because he has signed his contract, meaning we can move on to other things. Oh, typical, the Leaf story's done, now we can move on. No, you gotta take that up with the rest of the restricted free agents in the National Hockey League because they all seem to decide that the Mitch Marner contract is going to be what dictates what their contract is. And because Marner signed for lots and lots of money, I think those players are very happy. So let's look at some of the key restricted free agents that are remaining on the market, who may be off the market by the time this video is posted, and try to figure out what they're gonna get. It's hard to know where to start, but there are two players where I'm like, wait a sec, why was Marner the one deciding the market? Because Marner had 94 points last season, which is great, but only 69 points the year before. That's nice, but it's not 94, and he's never eclipsed 30 goals. The guy for the life of me I can't understand is Brayden Point. Marner had 94 points last year, Point had 92. Marner had 69 points the year before, Point had 66. And while Marner's career high in goal scoring is 26, Brayden Point had 32 2 years ago and 41 last season, a contract year. Not to mention the guys playing center. Can you think of a particularly good reason why Brayden Point should be making less than Mitch Marner? Because I can't. Well, Brayden Point plays on a really good team. He plays on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Marner plays with John Tavares! And the other player who falls into this category is Colorado's Mikko Rantanen. Rantanen had 87 points last season, but it was only in 74 games. If he played the full 82 game schedule, that is a 96 point pace, which, I don't know if you know this, 96 is larger than 94. Not to mention the season before that, Rantanen not only broke the 70 point barrier, but the 80 point barrier as well, 84 points. So Mikko Rantanen has two 80 plus point seasons under his belt. He probably would have broke 90 last year had he managed to stay healthy for the entire season. Can you think of why he should be making less? So maybe I've been thinking about this whole Mitch Marner is setting the market narrative wrong. It doesn't mean he's the best or he's supposed to be the highest paid. To me, Brayden Point and Mikko Rantanen are more than justified in saying, we should be making more than him. And for the rest of the RFAs, they're going, well, I don't put up as many points as him, but I should be able to make at least X% of what he makes. The beautiful thing for the Colorado Avalanche, and indeed Mikko Rantanen, is that the Avalanche currently have the most cap space in the entire NHL. At the time I am making this video, the Colorado Avalanche have over $15.6 million in cap space for the 2019-2020 season. The problem, of course, for Colorado is that cap space is going to run out hard, especially next season. Let's say Mikko Rantanen wants $11 million a season. Well, that still leaves the Avalanche with over $4.5 million in cap space for this season, which is bananas. Well, Samuel Girard, who makes under $730,000, has a contract extension that kicks in next year at $5 million. Nikita Zadorov will be an RFA. Andre Burakovsky will be an RFA. Tyson Jost will be an RFA. And that's not all. So even with Nathan MacKinnon making 6.3, which is probably the best contract in the entire NHL, even with Gabriel Landeskog making just under $5.6 million, even with Nazem Kadri only making $4.5 million against the cap, those are all sweetheart deals. The Avs are still going to be up against it. Granted, the salary cap is going to go up, but as we found out hard this season, we have no idea how much it will or won't go up by. This is probably what's holding up contract talks. Now, there are certain guys you can let walk, there are trades you can make. Tyson Barrie's salary retention comes off the books, I forgot about that. Not to mention the awkwardness of asking for $11 million when the next highest paid guy in your team is your team's best player and he only makes 6.3. Because of all the young talent on the Avalanche, and some of whom are going to come up in the next 1 or 2 years, I don't really know how a bridge deal helps them. Landeskog's an unrestricted free agent in 2 years. I mean, I do understand how it helps your team. It kicks the can down the road, but as long as you understand, it's kicking the can down the road and it might really bite you. So that's the Avalanche. The Tampa Bay Lightning, on the other hand, have less than $8.5 million in cap space. At the end of this season, Anthony Cirelli is going to be an RFA. He's coming off his entry-level deal and he's a great two-way forward in this league. Andrei Vasilevsky is going to go from making $3.5 million per year to $9.5 million. I've seen it floated around that Brayden Point can't sign a long-term deal because Tampa literally can't fit him onto their team. So he's gonna have to go for a bridge deal. The reason bridge deals aren't always ideal for teams is you know they're gonna ask for more once the deal is done. But if you're Tampa, you're sort of in win now mode. Ignoring the nightmare of last year's playoffs, you won the President's Trophy. It's just that Brayden Point is gonna be justified in asking for at least $8 million on a 2 or 3 year bridge deal, and Tampa is still gonna be super tight next year. And the word is that talks are nowhere near, but it sure seemed like that with Marner like literally 48 hours ago, and now he's signed. So Brayden Point, Mikko, Rantanen, those are the guys who I think would be totally justified in asking for more than what Mitch Marner got, which was about 10.9. Here's the rest of them. 21-year-old Matthew Tkachuk of the Calgary Flames. Things are looking tight there too. Calgary has barely over $7 million in cap space, which might get Tkachuk done, but forget that Andrew Mangiapane is also looking for a new contract. And with the Leafs, people have rightly pointed out that, oh, only Morgan Rielly is under contract for next season. Calgary's in a bit of a similar boat, only Giordano and Hanifin. So, can Matthew Tkachuk ask for as much as Marner? No. Marner's last 2 seasons were 69 points and 94. Matthew Tkachuk's were 49 and 77. Here's the little X factor though with Matthew Tkachuk. He's a jerk. I mean, I don't know how he is as a person. I've never met him. But on the ice, he is hell on skates. And teams are willing to pay a premium for that. We saw that with Tom Wilson making over $5 million. And then last season, he scores 40 points. It would have been a 50-point pace had he not been suspended. And everyone went, haha, look, he's worth it. 52 points is worth it. And the fact of the matter is, yeah, in today's NHL, 50 points. I mean, yeah, that's at least $5 million. The fact he's huge and crushes people just adds more. While Matthew Tkachuk might not be quite as big, he's still pretty big and about as mean, and he put up 77 points. It'll be interesting to see how this goes. Sean Monahan makes about 6.3, Mark Giordano 6.75, and Johnny Gaudreau also 6.75. So is Matthew Tkachuk about to become the highest paid Calgary Flame? This is the thing. I don't know if your teammates should be a factor, but it seems to be a huge factor in these talks. With Marner, there was obviously the Matthew stuff. In Colorado, Rantanen, how do you get $11 million when no one else makes over 6.3? And here in Calgary, we have a similar situation with Tkachuk. But like those players, Monahan, Gaudreau, like it's not comparable. They signed their deals before. Inflation is a thing. So let's say you sign your best player to an 8-year contract. No one over those 8 years, no matter how they do, is able to make more than that player? That's ridiculous. A long term here for Matthew Tkachuk, I think, would be ideal. He's 21 years old. Get him in the 6-7 year range, 8 if you can, for sure. Get those RFA years out of here. Buy a couple UFA years if you can. The way things are going, he'd be justified asking for 9? That's a lot of money, and it would make him by far the highest paid player on the team, but inflation's a thing. The longer you get him locked up for, the sweeter that cap number looks. The caveat if, he continues his 77-point pace. Or better, that's always good. And trying to predict how the player is going to do in the future is a huge factor, which makes Brock Boeser's situation really complicated. 55 points and 56 points. He has yet to crack the 30-goal barrier, but I think we all agree that Brock Boeser is at least a 30-goal pace scorer, probably close to 40. Problem is, as a rookie, played 62 games. Last season, he played 69. He is yet to crack the 70-game barrier. Signing Brock Boeser to a 6, 7, 8 year contract could be great, but it's not without risk. Now, let's assume everything's fine. He's going to be great. He's going to have a perfectly healthy season this year, and he's going to produce the way he always does. CapFriendly.com shows the Canucks at just over $4.1 million in cap space. It also shows their roster at 15 forwards, 8 defenders. That will obviously go down. Jake Virtanen's an RFA next year. Troy Stetcher's an RFA. Okay, well, it's not a huge deal. In 2 years, when Elias Pettersson's contract is up, it is. And every summer, the Canucks just keep adding players. They added JT Miller. They added Michael Furlan. Louis Eriksson is still on the books. They added Tyler Myers. Because he's had injury troubles, a bridge deal I think makes a lot more sense for Boeser, but it can't be 2 years because you don't want him coming up at the same time as Pettersson. That's a nightmare. And I hate throwing out numbers for bridge deals because they're so much harder to predict. Zach Werenski hits the open market as a UFA. He could probably make a lot of money. Well, he's not a UFA. Signed a bridge deal. $5 million. Or if you want a forward on a bridge deal, Sam Reinhart's making 3.6. Now let's say, just completely pulling this out of thin air, Brock Boeser signs for 3 years, $5 million a season. A bargain, a steal. At this very moment, the Canucks can't afford that. Or if someone were to get sent down, they can barely afford it. Jakob Markstrom's a UFA at the end of this year. That's fun. This has been a fascinating thing about this RFA class. It's not just a group of young professional athletes trying to reset the market, trying to make it so that on their RFA deals, they make more money. They aren't taken advantage of as much by NHL teams. It's their teams going, we literally can't afford that. Don't even get me started about the Winnipeg Jets. Patrik Laine, no idea. 36 goals as a rookie, 44 as a sophomore, 30 in his third year, and that was disappointing? Had he not suffered an injury as a rookie, Patrik Laine would have been money in the bank for 40 goals as a rookie. 40 goals in his second year. His third year is one of the most bizarre single seasons I've seen any player have. He had 30 goals and 50 points in a healthy 82-game season last season. 18 of those 30 goals were scored in a 12-game span, meaning in the rest of the 70 games of the season, Patrik Laine had 12 goals. Had Patrik Laine had a regular season last year, he was as he was in his first 2 years in the NHL, money in the bank for 40 goals, he wasn't terribly streaky, there is no question in my mind he would be the highest paid RFA of this class. We wouldn't be talking about Marner, Rantanen, Point, they wouldn't be in the same universe as this guy. He's supposed to be the next Ovechkin. And now, the way last season went, there's no way a long-term deal makes sense because all of a sudden you're not even sure who this player is. So a bridge deal it'll have to be, which is awesome because remember what I just said about Brock Boeser. Supposedly Laine's not even being offered $6 million, which LOL. But it's okay, the Winnipeg Jets have over $15.4 million in cap space for the season. Oh! They got Kyle Connor to re-sign too. Now Kyle Connor I think is a little easier. 66 points last season, 30 plus goals in each of his last 2 campaigns. Now Blake Wheeler has had a really good run as of late, but he's 33 and signed to over $8 million for a long time. That could hurt. But for Josh Morrissey, a little over $6 million locked up long term. Mark Scheifele, a little over $6 locked up long term. That's amazing. You gotta lock up Kyle Connor long term to be part of your core for a long time. So that's what I would do. Lock up Kyle Connor long term, lock up Patrik Laine to a little bridge deal. I just don't know what they look like at all. The good thing for the Jets is with Nikolai Ehlers, they have a team comparable that's also a pretty fair NHL-wide comparable. About the same age, about the same amount of points, about the same amount of goals. Kyle Connor, I would say, is a little bit better in each of those categories. And Ehlers is locked up to $6 million for the next 6 years. 6 times 7 for Kyle Connor, I think would be magnificent. I just don't know. To me, he's the biggest wild card of this entire class. He could be the best goal scorer of this generation, or certainly among them, and we're not sure he should be locked up long term. A really perplexing player. And we might as well end on another perplexing player, Jesse Puljujärvi. He's currently playing in Finland and doing really well. In 46 games last season, he had 9 points. His career high is 20. This is just my personal opinion. I hate what the Edmonton Oilers have done with Jesse Puljujärvi, and a lot of people are getting on this guy. It's hard to blame him for wanting out. And I feel bad for the Oilers and for Oilers fans because Ken Holland has come in and I think genuinely tried to change some things, and it could genuinely be beneficial for Jesse Puljujärvi to join the Oilers and their new regime, but he's just done right now. He's in no position to ask for a lot of money, and maybe that's part of the problem. He's looking at all these RFAs, all these peers getting major paydays, and he's looking at his situation and going, I'm missing out on millions and millions of dollars because I got yo-yoed between the NHL and Bakersfield. Oh yeah, and benched a lot. Oh yeah, and hip surgery. He's a weird offer sheet candidate because how much do we even offer him? Do the Oilers bother matching it? I think what Puljujärvi probably wants is to get traded, sign a 1-year show-me contract with the team, and hopefully dummy the league and get a pile of money. But we don't always get what we want, do we? And that's not even mentioning the fact the Oilers have less than $1.5 million in cap space at this moment. He might just stay in Finland. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. I know there's other RFAs out there. Charlie McAvoy, why didn't I talk about him? Well, we're just talking about RFA forwards right now. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends what I just told you and pretend like you were the one who came up with it. It's cool. It's fine.